safest station in the nation. We're coming to you from a non-windy location, Drive Safe Dave. No storms, nothing here in the Dallas area. Pretty calm, but man alive, for what y'all dealt with yesterday in that Florida area and continue to deal with a little bit today, Drive Safe Dave. Hey, our hearts go out to you. Our prayers go out for you and your family, for the well-being of all of those out there, Dave. Just seriously crazy storm last night.
I think they've already marked it as the 5th most powerful hurricane ever to hit the United States.
And I don't think a lot of us saw that happening, right? I mean, when that was before it hit Cuba and everything, it was just kind of a storm.
Yeah.
It wasn't even marked as a hurricane.
Yeah, well, when it went through Cuba, and then we started to get images of the aftermath of Cuba and the destruction and power lines down, power poles down, and we started to see the devastation in Cuba. We started to understand that it was a little bit more powerful than we had anticipated because it came out of nowhere. Really, it just developed there south of Cuba in the southern Antilles, and then exploded. But I'm telling you, 150-mile-an-hour sustained winds when it crashed ashore there in Florida, and I'm telling you, some of the images were pretty incredible as we saw them unfold yesterday. I was reading some of the stuff. They are calling that right now, and I don't know if it's true, but they're calling it a 500-year flooding event going on in that region, in that area right now by the governor of Florida.
Yeah, and it was man alive, just a brutal storm. We saw the wind. We had friends. We had Ralph Furlong on from BCB Live yesterday talking a little bit about it. He's up in that Tampa area. Didn't see, at the point when we talked yesterday, there wasn't, crazy winds like he ended up getting. But you go a little bit further south, it was out of control. I mean, the wind blowing, and you can see some of the videos here right now. The water just up, Dave, to, I'm talking pure flooding these houses. I mean, when it gets up that high, it's going to, water will find its way in.
Oh, it's coming in. And when it's coming in, and they are talking about in some of the areas and some of the regions. These are some of the initial videos coming out that we're showing now out on TikTok that it hit. Some of these are being transmitted by those that actually have power. A lot of people in that region, the 2 main counties that got hit, they are completely blacked out. They have no power whatsoever. They're even talking about having to rebuild their grid from the ground up because that many poles went down. It's just not connecting 2 power lines. But we're talking about a 12 to 15 foot surge of water coming in, and at that height, there's nowhere to run.
Yeah, it's just crazy. You talk about the power outage. We're showing it right here, over 2.6. This is up to date. This is live. As of 11:45, so 15 minutes ago, over 2.6, Dave, almost 2.7 people right now without power.
Yeah, and if you'll notice over there where it came ashore, 100% outage.
Oh yeah, it's just
there's no power. If you're not running a generator, you're not getting electricity.
Yeah, for sure. So it's that's definitely what we see right now. Again, we see the power outages throughout the state, definitely up there where it hit.
Look where it left the state as it started to pick up speed. Look at another set of power outages as it moved and cruised through the state, and as it goes offshore. We don't know the extent yet, Sir Rick, of what the damage is. I was reading an article sent out just a few minutes ago. They have as many as hundreds. I said hundreds waiting to be rescued off of roofs right now by helicopters. Wow. Hundreds still in effect right now.
I've never quite understood that, Dave. You have these mandatory evacuations, but what does that mean when it comes to these evacuations? It's obviously not mandatory. People stick it out.
It's
suggested, maybe more so.
It's more of a suggested.
But when you're in that side of Florida, even like that Tampa area, I was there Friday, was there Friday and Saturday, left Sunday. So many people didn't fear. They were like, it doesn't matter what they say. It never comes through here. And again, it didn't hit them. They didn't get the brunt. They didn't get the brunt of it, but it did just get south of there. They got the winds. They got the storms. They still had a lot of damage on that. Again, hearts, prayers, everything goes out to you. One thing for certain, we've seen FEMA ready to go. So for those of you that have followed that, just up there in Alabama and Georgia, Dave, acres and acres of land ready to go with truckloads of water, food, supplies, and the generators ready to go, ready to move into that area.
There's no doubt. And just by looking at some of the initial pictures coming out, they're going to need it. I don't know where these people are going to stay. I don't know where they're going to live. And there are parts of this whole communities that were completely underwater. They can't live there. I mean, it's just where are they going to go and what are they going to do? So it's going to be something that we see. And I'll tell you, I bet probably by tomorrow we'll see some really incredible images. I think right now the death toll's at 5 and counting. So they're working on it right now. And that's just because they're now going house to house. They're having to cut trees away to get to people to rescue them right now. And they're working diligently to make that happen. I can't imagine the emergency services working right now in waist-high, chest-high water to try to rescue some of these people.
Yeah, I will say this. Again, this happened, I think, about a few years back at the last storm that went through there. But that Tampa Bay, we talk about Tampa, we talk about that bay completely empty of water, as it gets sucked out.
Oh, yeah.
It's just that right there, and I wish we had an image of that. That's absolutely amazing to me. I mean, when you think about, where's the water at? I mean, how can it just be gone?
Yeah, so people don't really truly understand that wind and pressure control all of that. And when in that rotation, it was pulling it out, and that low pressure, which they always talk about the barometric pressure inside, when that does that, it raises the water because it's filling that void. So the water level actually rises because it's not being pushed down at sea level. So it actually raises up, so it's sucking all that water out, and it's going right in to that area right there at Fort Myers.
Yeah, just absolutely. I mean, it really is astonishing when you see that Mother Nature, the power that she does have on that. Hey, drive safe. We're going to look a little bit, too, while we're talking about some things, is that it's going to affect the freight market as we see as well. Yep. We did see freight drop down a little bit, but what we saw yesterday and really this whole week was a big increase of freight, coming out of that Miami area, Florida area in general. I was going to show some of the Miami things. Let's just look at the last 5 days. You can see right here this blue, this inbound tender rejection. So if you're you have freight into Florida, Dave, it really does start creeping up, right? As we get close to that storm, I'm not taking that load out there.
No.
We talked about that today in one of our meetings. Man, there's freight ready to go. Well, it's not open. You can't go in there. So you see the freight, and these are the data points that we see on sonar that we can see with a lot of things throughout the country. And I thought Miami, that whole Florida, would be a good area for us to kind of get an example of how to read these things. So you see the inbound tender freight pretty stay steady. Storm comes, Dave, it goes up there and wait till tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Anything, because people are still shipping out freight to Florida.
Absolutely. They have to.
They're still shipping. You still got to get the freight off your dock. It's on the way out there, and you're saying, well, you know what? By the time you get there, it'll be over. And they try to, and we, the trucking company, say, no, reject it. I'm rejecting. That number is going to keep going up. We look at the orange, and it's the same thing. This blue one's Florida. This orange is Miami.
Right.
And they're like, well, it didn't even hit Miami, Dave, right? We hear that. What are you worried about? It didn't hit Miami. Dave, what's the answer?
You can't get there. You got to go past these places. This storm cut a swath through that region, and good luck getting there. I'm telling you right now. And not only that, Sir Rick, let's be honest with one another. If you're going to book a load down there, you're paying me to come out.
Yes.
Right? Am I wrong?
No, that's for sure. So you're going to see the spot market. People are going to take your load. So if you're out there and you're shipping to Miami, you're shipping to Florida, hey, don't worry about it. Your load's going to happen, but it's not going to happen at the contracted rate. It's going to be rejected, and it's going to go to that spot market freight because, Dave, when you're going to Miami or you're going anywhere into Florida at this point, I don't care if it's Orlando.
Yeah,
what's going to happen?
You're going to have to pay me to bring me out.
Yes.
Because I'll take it down there. Yeah. And I'm going to go all the way back to Atlanta. Yeah.
Yep. Pay me all the way to Atlanta.
That's right.
And so you have to do that part right there. Dave, we look at the green. That's the outbound tender rejections out of Florida. So it's kind of going up. There's not a lot of freight in there anyway. But you can see everything. The blue, inbound
when does the outbound ever go up?
Yeah, right? I know. All of these things just show up. So outbound rejections up, inbound rejections up.
Absolutely.
We're going to see a big off balance for a while. And it won't, Dave, I mean, what we've got to remember in the shipping community now with this, the shippers, receivers, anything going to Florida,
right?
I don't care if it's Orlando or Tampa, understand that you're going to have to pay somebody for a long period of time to come back out empty.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be over in a week.
No. And look, I know you're going to take a load of lumber down there for repairs. You're not getting anything coming out, number one. Number two, you're not going to have, you got to be prepared when you go. Make sure you have fuel to get out and as far away as you can, because when you go in, fuel up as soon as at the last minute, because you're going to need it all to get out of there. I'm telling you, they're going into some difficult times right now, Sir Rick, and this is reflective of it immediately. It's amazing that it's already showing on the boards.
Yeah, it's actually, and so we'll see a lot more as this week goes.
You think so?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's going to the numbers tomorrow are going to be astonishing Friday, and it's not going to get over for a long time. Again,
right.
If you're a shipper, and you would say, well, Dave, you're going into Orlando. It wasn't affected, but what was affected with this storm? When you think about it, basic transportation, supply chains, is that there are more trucks now going to be in that Florida area.
Correct.
That just because I go into Orlando, I'm in now with competition with all of the flatbeds, the dry vans, and the reefers that are going to these staged areas down here.
Absolutely, because they'll take a load out of there if you have something. But let's also be honest, Rick. The affected most is the populace. Are they going to be able to go to work tomorrow?
Oh yeah.
I mean, are they going to be able to go brush their teeth and get their clothes?
Well, they probably don't have a place to go to work too.
Or they don't have a home to go get their stuff. I mean, they're going to go find some place to stay.
So I'm telling you, the inbound traffic's going to be out of control.
It's crazy.
And what I want to show you tomorrow is we're going to pay attention to the offset. And we may not see it tomorrow, Dave. When the offset means the amount of trucks versus the amount of freight. We're going to help explain why, if you're going to Orlando, why if you're going to Jacksonville, even Jacksonville, you're going to pay a lot of money to these places. And if you're a carrier and you have freight into there, let me tell you something. If you don't look at your rate per mile to Orlando or to Miami, you better do it all the way back out. And Dave, I will say this. Let me just give you guys a little bit of advice. If you're going in there for $4 a mile, don't expect to come out of Miami to Atlanta for $4 a mile, because you never would have done that anyway. Right? Do you follow me?
Absolutely.
Sometimes we overprice it and we still can't get that load. You're like, I'm going to have to deadhead all the way out. So we, on the truck side, sometimes we'll do some crazy math. We'll go $4 a mile from Dallas to Miami and all the way up to Atlanta, because I got to come back to Atlanta. You never would have came out of Miami for $4. Be happy with that $1.50 out of Miami to Atlanta, and charge the customer. That customers, be ready to pay some money. It's what it's going to take. That's going to be what that supply and demand says to that area.
And also, Rick, if all of these trucks are racing back to Atlanta to get freight, they're going to be Atlanta's going to be saturated with power as well.
So carriers, get ready.
Yeah.
And again, we're out of the when you think about Savannah. So it depends. Savannah's going to be a big player in this, Dave, in what happens with the freight. Does Savannah get hit hard? And it looks like it's going a little north of Savannah now. But if Savannah ports, if that gets put out of commission long, boy, now you have Atlanta with a lot of trucks even coming out of that Savannah coming up
right now. Right now, it does look like it's going to make landfall a little to the north, but they do predict it is in the 4 to 10 inches of rain bubble.
Hey, where are the ships at? Do you know that? I mean, the ships that were waiting outside of Savannah. I mean, they got to be gone, right?
Gone. They took a hike. All they did was drive out. They're going to wait till it passes, and then they'll drive back in. They're just like trucks. They're not going to hang around and wait for the tornado.
It's not going to be like that, right? They're not going to sit out there and just ride the waves.
The anchor doesn't work that good.
It doesn't work that way. They're getting out of town, so those will come back hopefully safe. Again, our hearts, our prayers go out to each and every one of you. Drive safe, Dave. Today's Thursday. It's we have an interview today.
We do.
We're going to go to a break. We're going to come back and drive safe, Dave. Who's our interview with?
It's with Lindsay Trent. She's president and CEO. Co-founder of Next Generation in Trucking. We'll see her in just a minute. We'll be back after this message.
welcome back to BCB Live. We're the safest station in the nation. Lindsay, top of the afternoon to you. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. You know, Drive Safe Dave right here. I was bragging that I got to meet you in person at the McLeod conference. You know, I know that was a good time. How did you like that McLeod conference?
It was amazing, and there was so much participation and really focusing on elevating the industry with technology. And I love that they brought a lot of nonprofits in who are working to make the trucking industry a better place. And they had a focus on that, and they have a heart to give back.
Yeah, they truly do. They had a location there for donations as well. You know, love that McLeod conference, you know, that what they stand behind. And it's good to see, you know, you bring up the nonprofits. You see more and more technology kind of working its way through into this industry. You know, and when I think about technology, Drive Safe Dave, I think about that younger group. I don't think about you. You know, you run from technology, but this younger group of drivers, younger group of
they trust
people,
it more.
They understand it. They're not scared of it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. What are your thoughts when it comes to technology and that younger group, Lindsay?
Honestly, that's what's going to draw them into the industry because they value technology and they want to be in an industry and a career that's technologically forward. And so if we can let the young generation, Gen Z, know that we are a very technology friendly industry and we find that important inside the truck, outside the truck, under the hood of the truck, and then how we communicate, it's going to be a selling point for them to choose a career in the trucking industry.
Lindsay, I know that you and David Don, you all formed Next Generation back in 2020. Talk to me a little bit. First of all, explain to everybody what Next Gen is, and then also where you began and where you are now. Some of the challenges or positive things you've seen in this couple of years.
Yeah, so we're a grassroots movement. We started off all as volunteers. In fact, I just became the first employee of Next Gen earlier this year. For the last 4 years, I worked for Ryder in sales. I'm out of Louisville, Kentucky. And 6 years prior to that, I did driver staffing. So always had a huge connection to the trucking industry. When I got into it 10 plus years ago, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the people, the mission, and what truckers are doing day in and day out. And a few years back, I was at a conference talking to people about the problem, right? We have this glaring problem, and it's the driver shortage, the technician shortage, the aging workforce. Young people aren't seemingly getting into the industry. People are going to college with no real plan. And somebody mentioned Dave's program to me. And Dave and I started talking and dreaming up this idea of creating this nonprofit trade association, calling it the Next Generation in Trucking Association, and really trying to bridge the gap for the trucking industry between education and industry, where we can create trucking programs on the high school level and get young people interested into our industry sooner. So other industries have been doing this for years. Construction programs, there's over 3,000 programs in high schools. Automotive, 1,400 programs in high schools. And there's 1,200 woodworking programs in high schools. There's only 15 truck driver training programs in high schools and 200 diesel programs. And so there's federal funding every year that's on the table going into the trucking industry because we don't have these programs. And so we're trying to create these programs, start becoming a part of getting this federal funding to go towards our industry, and really partnering with industry in our mission and what we're trying to do to raise awareness and to create trucking programs and pathways.
And Lindsay, you're talking to that, and I think it's fantastic. How are you doing it? I know you're talking about creating pathways. How are you doing it? How are you going into these schools? How are you creating these programs?
Yeah, so there's quite a few numbers of ways I could say, but one of the main things we're trying to do is replicate Dave's program across the country. At this point, we've met with over 70 high schools that have come to us because they want to start truck driver training programs. And so we'll meet with them for an hour. We give them the curriculum, all the things that they need to get a program started. And then we act as a support once they are, the wheels have been in motion of getting a program started, and then once they start the program and get it running. We are partnering with all of the diesel tech programs that are currently out there, and really bringing our membership to the table in those programs and getting them involved. And same with supply chain. There are supply chain programs in high schools out there, and we need to be, as an industry, supportive and connected to those programs. Every single one of these programs has an advisory board. So these advisory boards, they have a career fair at least once a year. They have guest speakers come to the schools. The schools can go on field trips. And so we want the industry to get involved so they can be a part of that, be a part of these advisory boards, and hopefully be connecting with their future workforce.
How's the feedback? And you're going into these programs. How's the feedback? I mean, we've spoken to David Dine, and we've heard some from out west. How's it going with you and some of these schools that you're going in, meeting with these advisory boards? How is it working out?
It's great. People are really excited to start trucking programs. They know that trucking is high wage, high skill, high demand. And those are the three things that they're looking for to start programs. And so they know when a young person graduates that there are lots of job opportunities, whether they're in a rural environment or urban. And so getting these programs started is exciting to educators and administrators because they want to provide good jobs for the students that are in their school system that might not be going to college.
And what are you? So I hear that part there, but what are some of the natural challenges from these high schools? Those that say we're just not ready. I mean, what seems to be the reason why a school wouldn't want to get involved or can't get involved?
Well, honestly, it does take funding and it takes time. So a lot of times they might have to apply for a grant. They have to allocate that Perkins funding. It's $1.2 billion a year that they get federally. And so it's just a matter of allocating that Perkins funding to creating this program. And so that's the hurdle. Also the hurdle of hiring an instructor. So hiring a CDL driver that's got the experience, but that will also be a good teacher. So those are some of the hurdles. But of course, the biggest hurdle is that 18-year-olds can't drive interstate. And so we are a big proponent of the Safe Driver Apprenticeship Pilot Program and really supporting that initiative through the FMCSA and the Department of Labor. And we're really excited that that program is getting up and running and that carriers have 3,000 spots where they can have an 18 to 20-year-old drive interstate. There's so many layers of red tape, but there are a lot of really good companies that are dedicated to seeing this happen because they believe that if through the proper training that an 18-year-old, and not just any 18-year-old, it's a really particular 18-year-old that will be a good fit with the trucking industry and be safe out there on the road. And so getting those programs started so that we have the data to make sure that an 18-year-old is just as safe as, say, a 25-year-old out on the road.
And you speak to that and you're talking about it, and we sit here and we're talking mostly about interstate trucking when we all know in the industry that a huge portion of the jobs needed out there are the last mile delivery, in-yard delivery, working within the states, trying to get some. I mean, there is such a high demand for any type of individuals out there. I don't think we're at a loss for job opportunities if somebody walks up and has an opportunity or a skill set that they can apply and go into an apprenticeship type program, correct?
Absolutely. There are so many career paths that a young person can come into our industry and start working for an employer. And so whether that is, Class C, Class B, and staying in state, or maybe working for a cement hauler or dump truck, getting that experience, maybe even a yard spotter, getting that experience so they're on the road and practicing their backing and getting a feel for what it's like to become a professional driver. And then hopefully when they're 21, they'll be able to, the sky's the limit for what they want to do and the opportunities that they have.
And Lindsay, when we speak to that, really business needs to be just as involved with you in a partnership in ensuring that the need and the desire and the want to create these opportunities, right? I really think, the businesses need to be hand in hand with the education.
Hey, yeah. So for us, we're 100% member supported. So we are hoping that companies join our association so we can work on the mission, which is partnering with these schools and getting more of these programs started. And so we partner with our industry members to get programs started in their backyards. At the high school, that might be a good fit to start a program. Listen, all these high schools are doing all these trainings. They're doing welding and culinary and cosmetology. Why can't there be a trucking element involved in these? And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get trucking represented in high school education and career technical education, so that we can have a future workforce and young people who are excited and passionate getting into our industry. We want to be the first career choice.
Yeah, for certain. Hey, Lindsay, so with that, doesn't that mean that we on the trucking side in our industry, the American, the trucking associations that are out there, the shippers, the receivers, we've got to clean this up a little bit to make this job attractive to one of the younger generations? Because we spoke about this at the McLeod conference in one of our in one of the roundtables, and I brought up the question about little things like detention, little things like driver pay. I mean, boy, it's hard to attract somebody to a job that you don't pay them the right salary. You pay them, if they get there and they have to sit 2 or 3 hours at a shipper, receiver, and they're not getting paid. It's hard to justify and to encourage somebody to come work for free, and they just don't like it. And unfortunately, our industry's been so bad over, say, a decade, over the last 30 years. 100%. I know we've gotten better with data and everything, but don't you agree that we've got to make sure that when we talk about the alliance and we talk about membership, that we have a commitment to make our industry better to attract that younger driver as well?
Absolutely. Our jobs need to be attractive, and I see a lot of things moving in the right direction. In fact, I met somebody at that conference who works for 10th Street, and he is creating a database of shippers and wait times. And so where we're going to have all this information, if you're going to go to this shipper, on average, this is how long you're going to wait. And so we need to create things like that so it's more visible in what we're expecting our drivers to do, and make sure that they're paid for what they're doing.
Yes. Lindsay, I think, and also when you talk to driving, and we've been speaking to it specifically, but in this industry, there's so many jobs, not just driving. I mean, this industry is huge. It's robust. It has shipping offices. It has, technicians. It has mechanics. This industry is vast, and it needs people, and we've got to be competitive going into the next generation. You spoke to a technology, and you said that was the way we get it. So can you speak to that specifically, how they're going to utilize that in the classroom?
Yeah, so I mean, even with Dave's program, or for instance, for diesel tech training in the classroom, all of these programs are very technologically forward, and they're doing online training, but they're also getting that hands-on experience. And I talked to a lot of brokers at the McLeod conference, and why can't young people in high school learn what a broker, what is that, and what do they do, and how do they contribute to the economy and the trucking industry as a whole? And so there are so many jobs within the trucking industry to get into, and young people have no idea that we exist as an industry, minus the fact that during the pandemic, they saw the fact that if their truck drivers don't exist, they're not going to have things on the shelves in the grocery store. Restaurants are not going to be able to have the things that they're wanting to order. And so the supply chain, trucking, it's starting to resonate with young people, but we just, as an industry, have to push that forward and keep the momentum going for the direction that we're already moving in. And there's a lot of great things happening out there. We just need to get everybody behind us in our mission.
Yeah, hey, Lindsay, I know we only got a couple of minutes left, but I do have a question online here, and I'll just, and I can read it, but it's asking, can we really trust an 18-year-old? And you know what? I'll go out there to some and say, can we really trust this 30-year-old or 35-year-old? So I think the question is really around, man, how do we is an 18-year-old, and you've been doing it now, are most of these 18-year-old, 19-year-olds, are they ready for that big truck? And how are we going to, as you kind of talked earlier, how are we going to pick out which are ready versus which of them just aren't ready to go yet?
Well, that's why we're trying to replicate Dave's program, is because it's a well-rounded 1 or 2 year program in high school where they're studying to be a professional truck driver. They're getting that training through driver simulation. And then when they graduate, they get their behind the wheel training at a local community college or driving school. And then past that, they go into an apprenticeship program. It's not every 18-year-old. It's ones that we've identified as good prospects to become drivers. We'll be at the Future Farmers of America convention in Indianapolis in October. There's 60,000 high school students that will be at this convention. And those are a perfect example. A lot of them are driving on the farm already. Yeah. They're working on equipment already on the farm. And so we're going to have a driver simulator there for these students to practice their driving skills. We're also going to have VR headsets that do diesel technician career exploration. So you can put on a VR headset and you can change the oil in a truck. And so we want to get these young people excited about the trucking industry, but we're not going after any 18-year-old. We're going after the right fits. And I would say that probably 20% of your listeners had their CDL at the age of 18 and started driving then, is my guess.
And you're probably right. Or they were driving it. I mean, most of them, you'll hear them when they call in. I've been driving since I was 14, so you're probably absolutely right.
Yeah, they are driving something with a clutch. But I will tell you, Lindsay, this is great information. If you've got somebody in high school or you know somebody in the high school, how do they reach out and get a hold of you to try to get their high school in the program, to get it activated, so that, because there's not enough of them across this country. So how do they get a hold of you, Lindsay?
Thank you. That is the best question I could get asked, because that is what we live for, to meet with school systems to talk about starting trucking programs. And so if you know of a school system, you have a connection to a principal or a career technical education director or a superintendent, it's all about giving them a call and asking if they would be interested in an hour-long meeting with us to learn about starting a truck driver training program. You can email me, lindsay@nextgentrucking.org. You can get on our website and send us a form through that. It's nextgentrucking.org. I had a meeting yesterday with a school district in Amarillo, Texas, and we got introduced through them, through an employer that's in the area that reached out to them and said, hey, we'd like to see a truck driver training program started in this community. Do you mind meeting with Next Gen Trucking to explore starting a program? And they are super excited on board to start a truck driver training program, and it's morphed into also a supply chain and logistics program. So getting these programs started in schools is dire for our industry, and we love to meet with these schools. And they start these programs all the time. It's just if they're going to start a welding program, or are they going to start a truck driver training program? So let's get more trucking programs started at our local high schools.
All right, Lindsay, I do appreciate it. It is time to go, but I want to make sure that you're also looking at those elementary schools, making sure those kids are getting excited about trucking too. Before you get out of here, we ask all of our guests to state their name, who they're with, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that, Lindsay?
I sure can. This is Lindsay Trent with the Next Generation and Trucking Association, and I'm watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
That's right. All right, you got it.
Appreciate you, Lindsay. Great seeing you again, and we'll talk to you, okay?
Thanks.
All
Bye-bye.
right, there we have Lindsay again. People making a difference out there, Drive Safe Dave, in this country right now within our high school students. And I know you brought up that younger generation. We have a group of people that also spend a lot of time with them. But you know what? We've got to find ways, because every kid, and we've talked about it here before, every kid doesn't have to go to college. Sometimes they go out there and get lost, and they come back a year, 2 years later, and they're lost still. There's so many things in the transportation that really does reach to a lot of people out there. You don't have to be a driver. You don't have to be a technician. Let me tell you something. There's the brokerage side of the business, the dispatching side of the business, the data entry side, the customer service, the sales side. For some of you may not realize, there are careers in here. You know what? There are
I've
actual
made one, and
careers in this industry that people actually begin and retire with. And Dave, let's brag on it for a second, because there's not a better industry when you want to make a difference. When you want to, you know what? Let me tell you something. This industry, you can't run from it. You can't trick your numbers. Somebody's, there's data out there that can say, listen, you're not doing your job, or listen, you're doing a good job on this part right here. It really does. It is a fulfilling job, because you make the difference every single day.
Yeah, you bring in everything that they need, and I'll tell you, once you get in the industry, it's sticky. You can't get through it without it getting on you, and you can't go through this industry or pass through this industry without getting trucking all over you in some way, shape, form, or fashion, in a good, positive way, Sir Rick. I mean, in a positive.
No. I know you do, sir. Hey, listen, we have Double Check Dale. He's waiting in the wings, ready to come on. He's got more updates for us about the weather, but we'll also talk some safety. Coming up next on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. You're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. BCB Live covers freight.
Here we are now at 21% of record freight being rejected.
News down in Texas. We're going to talk a little bit about this. We had another $1.5 million seizure. If ever there's a time to do a pre or post trip, it's if you're doing something wrong. Weather, traffic.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to some traffic and weather with Buckle Up Bob. You can kind of see where the visibility can be compromised a little bit. Again, right where that rain is.
And most importantly, safety. One of the things that we must do is make sure that safety is the number one thing that we focus on.
Going into an intersection yellow is not the way. That's to clear an intersection, not to enter an intersection.
Tune in weekdays from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch BCB Live through LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe today and follow BCB Live. All right. Hey, welcome back to BCB Live for the safest station in the nation. You see him. It's Lindsey Trent right here with the co-founder of Next Gen right there. Oh, no, it's Double Check Dale. It's Double Check Dale. I was just going off what the teleprompter said. I'll read anything.
There it is.
It gets up there in front of me. I'll read anything.
It's good to be here. Yeah, I don't look much like Lindsey at all. A little more hairy right here.
I'll agree with you.
We'll talk a little bit about weather. You know, the storm has pushed, Hurricane Ian's pushed through Florida pretty much, getting back out to the Atlantic side. It is going to hook itself back to the north and a little bit to the west. Going to catch part of Georgia with some pretty heavy rains, and then it hits South Carolina. It looks like North Carolina, where we're going to see some really heavy rain, some really strong gusty winds that go with it. Torrential rains, 5, 6, 7, 8 inches, and so some flooding will be an issue there. But it looks like it's pushed out of Florida, pretty much out of Florida now.
General recommendations for trucks that may have that load that's going to Miami still. Wait it out another day.
Wait it out another day, because it may have pushed out of there, but there is a lot of damage. The waters haven't receded yet. I mean, with that record storm surge and everything, there's still a lot of flooding going on. Roads will be closed, trees, buildings, all that stuff. So wait it out.
Yeah, tomorrow's Friday, then we have the weekend up ahead of us. So double check. How about tomorrow? We kind of get a road, a highway, what the highways look like. Are they closed? Are they not? So we can just get that visual, right, on what's happening tomorrow. Hey, we're going to say don't touch it yet again today. Tomorrow, let's get a quick update, though, and just kind of get an idea on what's happening. And I want you to see it. I want you to see, though, it's 90 degrees and sunny out there, that roads are still closed. And Dave and Dale, also we got to remember is that we don't need to clog these roads up to clog them up. There's a lot of emergency vehicles that have got to get down there and take care of business.
Yeah, and as you well know, a lot of people are going to be returning home and are going back to go see and to see the area in which they live, to try to figure out what's going on. So there's going to be a lot of difficult traffic ahead on these roads, on these evacuation routes as they come back in, because they're going to return this weekend and they're going to try to figure out what's going on, and all you're going to do is add to the congestion. I understand that if you want to try to move your way down and get close, I'm telling you that's not a good idea right now. And staging up a little bit high of that, it's not going to be ideal at this moment, because everybody's going to be doing that.
Yeah, you know what, Dale, I know that you have your subject we're going to talk about, but let's just kind of scoot back for a second, because with everybody going back home to go, look at the damage, there's going to be a lot of emotions on these roadways.
Lots of it. I mean, road rage is an everyday thing, and there'll be distractions, because they'll be thinking about how am I going to handle it when I get back? What am I going to do? What am I going to see? It's we shouldn't be traveling down there with CMVs right now unless we're delivering the supplies and everything. The other thing to remember is there's a lot of power outages, over 2.5 million power outages. So that means there's down power lines. That's always a danger in itself. And so we have to really be aware of our situation if you're going there. I would definitely wait it out a day, maybe a couple more. We'll get some reports tomorrow on the roads and what it's actually looking like for travel through there. Because like I said, just because Miami didn't get hit doesn't mean you can get there yet.
Yeah, agree. Hey, let's look at some videos here.
Yeah. Look at that. We're probably following, this driver's probably following a little bit too close, getting himself in a situation. Does pick up the space toward the end of the video, and so that's a good thing. He is listening to that in-cab coaching a little bit. Just have to react a little bit sooner. Create that space. Get out of that person's bubble.
Yeah, you're going 73 miles an hour, and you just have to believe and understand. And again, I'm going to say you go back to that younger group, Drive Safe Dave, that 18, 20, 21. They're going to believe this technology. They're going to believe the data, maybe more so than somebody that's been driving for 25 years, because that person that's driving for 25 has a lot of bad habits that have been picked up throughout the years, right?
Yeah, and not knowing that they're bad habits, only then into the reality of the situation. And as you look at this, you don't really see a genuine change just by our eyesight in the video. But if you look at the data, you can see that they've dropped 4 or 5 miles an hour from the first video all the way to the end of it, because there was a signal there, and it almost immediately you can see the power drop off, and you can see it gone from 74, boom, all the way down to 70. So a reaction was made on the signal inside the cab. So I like that. It does make sense. It is good. But you're right, Sir Rick. I think the new generation is going to trust it more.
They're used to technology. They're not going to be challenged by it. They're not going to fear it because they've grown up on it. Next video.
You know, just really no big picture here, is there? I mean, we're pretty close behind the vehicle in front of us. There's a truck off to the side, and so we really can't see what's happening up there. And we're following a little bit too close, and so we just got to take that coaching again, back off, create that space so we can open up more of a big picture, have an out.
Yeah, just because you're driving in a 70 and you're driving 65 doesn't mean that you can stop. The difference between a big truck and a car is that it takes a lot longer for the big truck to stop. We all know that part. Now we've got to just understand that we just need a little bit more space. Not a whole lot more, but just a little bit more. And all we're saying is slow down for a few seconds and then go back driving 65. You're going to be in fine shape. And Dave, you said it. I love it because nobody's going to jump in front of you. They don't want that.
And if they do, they're pulling away from you automatically because they just passed.
Nobody wants behind these two guys. I mean, honestly, are you going to jump in behind these so you can slow down and be running? No, they're all sliding out in the hammer lane trying to go around. But really, you know, you're going to encounter these a lot down there on the road in your day. You know, you're going to come up to this. These guys are running a little bit slower. I think the one in the center lane's probably trying to pass the guy on the right, but not doing a fantastic job. You're just going to encounter this. Be aware of it. All right, here's a rolling stop.
Yep. Whether it's coming out of a truck stop or wherever, you got to stop for it. I mean, they put them there for a reason. Stop means stop.
Have we ever showed a stop sign and somebody stops, or we just show the one?
Oh, we have, but it's pretty rare.
It's like now, it's like you expect it. Stop sign, they're going to run it. I mean,
we know what this is about.
Can we show one? I'm curious.
Yeah, y'all send in a video of us actually stopping at a stop sign, would you? I mean, we get a lot of non-stops, but send us the video of the actual stopping.
Okay, this one is not of us actually stopping, but it is great work by our driver.
You know, driver in this one does a great job recognizing what's going on. This vehicle comes from a couple lanes over. It's trying to make the exit, I believe, and cuts him off. So the driver in this one just does a super job of recognizing harsh brake and gets away from it, slows it down.
Well, I don't know. What's wrong with that car? I mean, there's nothing over there. Where are they going?
They were going to. I think they were going to try to exit, and then all of a sudden they see the big truck. I mean, they're like, "Whoa!"
That's right.
Yeah.
Saw the exit, saw the big truck.
That's how bad it can happen.
It's like a chihuahua picking on an elephant. I mean, you don't do that. I mean, you're not going to win that battle.
No.
You're not going to win that battle. Hey, listen, stay safe out there. Thank you for all that you do. I want to encourage you to get involved with some of these associations that we share on this show. Next Generation, Dave, very important to get a hold of. Get a hold of Lindsay Trent. Get involved in making a difference. It's so important that we all do our part. We all continue our push towards educating America on this trucking industry. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow.